Hey everybody, this is a new episode of the Yumi and BTC podcast. They have me introducing it again because Daniel and John got tired of talking to you guys.
To be fair, they're probably tired of listening to us too, so, it's probably a good decision.
Well,
I don't know if Tim will alleviate that, though.
I'm different than you guys, though. I'm I'm a breath of fresh air. Anyway, as I was going to say, I sometimes act like I don't care about what people think, but I actually really do. And it feels good to be able to talk to people again, to introduce them to our show. And it's me, Timothy Baker, as you all know and love, and my co-host,
Daniel Brown.
And John Stuart.
Two wonderful people out there just talking with us tonight.
You're not being sarcastic.
No, not at all. How is it in Arizona, Daniel?
It's pretty nice here. It's only 7:30, so I get to make you guys stay up late. And for me, it's just a pretty chill night, so that's pretty good.
It's not really that late, but
it's been like, what?
What's the temperature?
80s. It's been amazing. I was just about to say that. Dude, I don't know if I ever sent you guys a picture of my balcony, but it's just like balcony and then like 20 feet and then a huge pool and then nothing but blue skies and sun. So it's pretty sexy if I do say so myself.
You have never sent me a sexy picture from your apartment. It's normally just
What do you mean? I've probably sent you a snap of myself before. Are you saying I'm not sexy?
No, Daniel, you're not sexy. I'm sorry.
Ouch. Okay, fine.
Yeah, you want to make donations to make Daniel feel sexy face. The thing is he's not sexy, and he's so like devoted to anyone who gives him attention. You give him like 5 cents, he'll feel like $1 million. It'll be completely unwarranted, but all you have to do is give the man 5 cents, and he'll just like walk around like slap people with his dick. Anyway.
Yeah, that's how it works.
What? Why would you do that? Anyway,
you're the one who said it.
Speaking of baller status, now we have our first patron on Patreon.
Yeah.
That was unnecessary. If you can cut that out later, that'd be cool. Anyway, we have Westside Bitcoin, who I guess got in contact with you, Daniel, a little bit ago, right?
Yeah, he heard the show a few weeks ago, and I was talking about Arizona, and he tweeted me. He's like, "Oh, hey, I didn't know you were in Arizona. Whereabouts? I thought I knew everyone in the area." So that was pretty cool. And he just said hello, and he told us he's working on this app that he wants to share. So we will share that in a minute. But I recommend sharing the Patreon news first, Tim.
Yeah, Westside Bitcoin has contributed to our Patreon account. I guess you call it contributed or pledged. So now we have $1 per sode, as Daniel likes to call
Did you
it.
just say sewed?
Yeah, that's what Daniel has been. He's texted me that, so then anytime I've talked about it since, I've always kind of imagined him saying that or thought about it. It's always just him, sewed.
It's efficient it's an efficient use of words until people start getting confused and wondering who said what. And if you really just said sewed, then it gets really long, because then someone tries to explain how it's efficient, except that, it slows down when people get confused and they're like,
all
did
this
you really
does
just
is
say
just
sewed?
All this does is just drive
makes
content.
you sound like an idiot.
No, it doesn't.
I could go on and on.
And it makes people want to listen more, and then it makes more money per sode.
Hey guys, how fast do you think we could put out an episode? Maybe once every 5 minutes, if we really tried?
Probably.
Depends on what you mean by an episode.
Hey.
We just have like really short.
An audio clip.
Hi, how are you?
An audio clip. That's an episode.
Oh, we should have a podcast that just talks about the weather.
One word at a time.
No. We just have a podcast that talks about the weather, so it's like the stupid conversations you're going to have in public anyway, and you just listen to two people in different areas, like, how is it? Oh, it's sunny, and then you're just done right after that, and then you just pump them out like every half hour or so.
That's pretty much what we just did. But here's the thing. If we could do it every 5 minutes, we could take 8-hour shifts, and what is that, like $12 an hour? So, that's a start. We're getting somewhere. We're almost to Bernie's $15.
What do you do for a living? I spew babble into a microphone. I don't care about the weather anymore. I don't even know what the weather is.
All we need is $1 more per episode, and we're well above Bernie's minimum wage, so we'll be good. But now we got to move on now. We're going off on this again. So, yeah, that app, Tim, the short link, well, Yeah, Westside Bitcoin is the donator, and it's at Westside Bitcoin on Twitter. But he has a pretty cool app called the Bitcoin Trade Calculator, and we're going to link that through ymb.tc/Westside Bitcoin. So if you're looking for an awesome converter app it's like the tool on our website. It's, millibits to euros or dollars to satoshis or stuff like that. It's all combined in one app, and there's an option for a markup too for traders, because he is a Bitcoin trader, and so there's 5% markup. You can put that in the calculator. It's pretty cool. And if you want to see it, ymb.tc/Westside Bitcoin. And if you want to get similar plugs, like we've been saying for a few weeks, will be anyone who donates, even if it is 5 cents per episode, literally. You can, if you donate before April 21st, we'll mention you in every episode until that date. So that's our promo going on right now for early donators. And you can join the elite club with Westside Bitcoin. Anyway, and that's at patreon.com/you, me, and BTC. Our short link is ymb.tc/feed us, but it sounds too much like fetus, so I don't know. Tim and John don't like it.
I don't know that I said anything until John said something. He kind of grew it in my mind.
We're raising money for all the fetuses. That's all.
It doesn't matter if you didn't hear it before I said it. It's true.
You hear it now, exactly.
It's not even like that you have to strain to hear it. It's literally exactly the same depending on your accent or dialect or whatever.
Feed us, fetus. No.
But you don't say it like that.
One of them
I
is
say
us.
feed us.
Feed us.
Feed us. Give me food. Feed us.
But that's
feed
not
us,
how
please.
Daniel said it.
No,
Yeah, well,
it definitely,
Daniel's
there's a
half,
difference. One of them is us, one of them is is.
Daniel's got a little shine to him, and not in the cool, from the movie stuff, but he's just got a little something special about him that I just don't worry about when he talks.
Anyway, John wants to talk about how the robots are taking over the world, so I'm turning it over to him.
Yeah, speaking of Bernie's minimum wage.
Oh, yeah.
Feel the burn. Feel the burn.
Well, that was actually kind of how this
Did you see that
topic
fucking
came
bird?
about.
Can someone shoot that bird from that picture?
What are you talking about?
There was a bird.
I'm lost.
You didn't? Okay, there was a bird that landed.
You really just interrupted me.
Yeah, I did. There was a bird, because this is
Tim,
special
I don't
news
care
that needs
about
to be
there was
brought
a
up.
bird. There was a bird that there was a
You
bird.
ruined my
that,
segue. I had a
It's the bird.
segue going, and you completely killed it.
Fine.
No, now I want to know about this bird. It's too late. You already interrupted.
There was a bird at a Bernie Sanders
Wow.
caucus or something, and it just
Are
landed
you
on
serious?
it landed on his podium, and everybody cheered for it because I don't know. Because
Did he give it like $15 for its time?
Yes, it was thank you, sir. I want you to be officially and efficiently compensated for your work. Here's your money, sir. And the bird was like, "What the fuck am I supposed to do with this?
All
Your
right.
prices
You're
are way
done,
too
Tim.
high."
You're done. I'm cutting you off. John's turn.
Anyways.
I'm vomit
Speaking
again.
of Bernie's minimum wage. Yeah, that's actually, it was a conversation about Bernie Sanders that kind of led to this. And I was talking with one of my friends who, as far as I know, I don't think he's a Bernie Sanders supporter. And I was kind of actually surprised a little bit by this. But we were just talking about minimum wage stuff. And then he said basically that he thinks at some point in the future that we're going to have basic income, which if you don't know what that is, it just means that basically you get paid for being alive. But the reason he said this is because he thinks in the future everything is going to be so automated that there will hardly be any jobs at all for people to do. So like I said, I was kind of surprised, and especially knowing the person that said this. Well, maybe not the person who said it. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. It was just something that struck me as really interesting, and I don't really know what I think about that at this point. I don't understand how it would work, but at the same time, I've also never thought about a world where literally everything is automated. So I thought it would be kind of cool to just talk about it tonight. So we'll see what happens.
I like that idea.
You always
and
like
I think
his
it is
ideas.
worth talking about. Yeah, Tim. You know what? Before I get into my tangent, or no, I have a tangent before I get into an actual response. But I've said this before. But John is the one, like, every time, every episode, he's like, yeah, I was just talking about this with my friend the other day, like, or I just read in this book about this guy who did this. Like, John's the only one who actually applies this podcast to his life, or vice versa, either way. For me and Tim, it's just like we just babble and
podcast.
Yeah, you know, it's
No, I think
John...
you babble a little bit more than I do, Daniel, because I have fucking idea what you're talking about right now.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. You and I just babble, but John actually like thinks about this stuff and reads about this stuff and talks about this stuff. You and I, like, we just talk about it on the show, and we just go on, and that's it. I mean, the rest of the week we just kind of fuck around, and who knows what we even do. But John actually cares.
Dan, there's no way you do not obsess about this stuff half as much as he does, and neither do I. I'm not saying I'm intelligent about it, but I think we just both like hearing ourselves talk a little bit more than John does. So we just run our mouths.
I'm going to say I do have conversations about this with people, but
nobody cares.
It's a falsehood to say that I read about it, because I basically read like nothing about anything important.
All right. Well, even the conversations about it, that's more than me and Tim. So that's a good start. But anyway, my response. All right.
You don't know what I talk about homeless people with.
Okay.
You talk about homeless people
I talk about homeless behind their back.
Talk with homeless people about is what you meant to say, but whatever. Nobody cares. So here's the first thought that comes to my mind, because I was just hearing this idea for the first time like 20 minutes ago. To me, it seems like if everything is automated literally, then what do we even need money for? I mean, do we have to pay for automation?
If stuff is still scarce, so. Yeah. It would have to
that's
be.
the thing. I thought about that I had that same like thought, but somebody would have to pay for the robots, like to build them, or the initial cost of building them, and then after that, like, I don't know. It's interesting because if let's just say that we have these robots that are built out of metal and stuff, and we have robots that can build robots, the cost then would be like the material.
And we have
of
robots
building...
that can mine for metal.
Yes, that's what I was just getting to. So like the cost would be the materials, but then like if no one has to work to get the materials, does that actually cost money either? So maybe... then I guess
because it would only be if somehow the Earth, or if we were able to mine stuff from like around the Earth, and there was like too much resources. Like, you need money. The only reason why you need money is because stuff is scarce, and people, like, that's how you divide it, at least in like a purely capitalist society. That's different than, I guess, what we're talking about, obviously.
So yeah, I think scarcity is really the only thing that could cause something to cost money. So like if we can also send our mining robots onto asteroids to like mine stuff, and they can get out there, or I guess if we have enough of them, there's just a constant stream of them coming back and like bringing iron or whatever it is that they're mining.
Right.
It'd be almost like there's no scarcity.
Everything.
Where there's yeah, that's another thing that I think 3D printing is a big factor in this too, because then you also don't have to buy things made by other people. You would have to buy the materials, but if there's no cost in getting the materials, because it's like even mining and all that is automated, I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, but I agree on the scarcity thing, first of all. Like, it almost would come down to just like people have often said that, like, the only real kind of value or property is land, right? I mean, it's real estate. That's, a lot of people say that's like the only true value that there is.
You're a genius.
And it would sort of come down to that, because even if you had free labor, which you could theoretically, oh, actually, I don't know, because there's always fuel and everything too. You need energy. That's a big part of it. But still, even if it was really efficient, and even if they could create and not create, but if they could like mine enough of their own energy to sustain themselves, then yeah, it would come down to who owns the land or who owns the asteroid, right? I mean,
Yeah. Well, so
who
here's
has the rights to mine that area?
Just space sticking.
If we're gonna go completely sci-fi, then like maybe it's possible to terraform planets and we have colonies on the moon and stuff. So even space could be a thing. But I think it would be interesting if we talked about this and just said we can't leave Earth. Because then another issue that I think comes up is like, well, another thing that would drive cost, and this isn't even cost. It'd be like, I mean, I generally don't like to be the guy that's like, oh, like if things are cheap, then people are just gonna buy so much of it. But at the same time, like if nothing costs any money, I feel like we'd have to go through resources way faster.
Oh yeah, yeah.
People just throw shit away all the time.
No, you're right.
So like it would almost be like you'd have to force people to pay just to prevent them from overusing stuff.
We're doing this for your own good.
That's pretty much what was that ran through my mind a little bit when I was just saying how, you know, theoretically robots could mine their own energy. They wouldn't necessarily create energy. That's against whatever law of thermodynamics. But they could collect their own energy. They could dig for oil and get enough to sustain themselves and then do more stuff.
They're all going to be hydrogen powered, Daniel.
Whatever it is, though.
Well, hold
on. I got to finish this real quick. If they could do that, then what John said is basically true. They would basically just mine their own energy nonstop, and they would take all the oil and rape the earth and until it was desolate, right?
If the robots just keep on making more and more and more and more, but that's going to happen.
Well, the thing is, I guess one other element of that is that the robots could be programmed to not do that.
To just quit at a certain number.
Yeah.
But people might just keep building more and more and more. You know, like,
I mean, what would be the purpose of doing that programming? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I'm asking.
So that you wouldn't have to charge people for things, but you also wouldn't have to worry about running out of resources too quickly.
It's like central planning. They might not ever get it.
It's just like a forced. I don't know what you'd call it, like pacing. I mean, it's like it's almost you could think of it as the same thing with Bitcoin, as we're like the block reward halves.
So let's do our classic generalization here. I need to simplify this a lot. So I'm a guy in the future, and I have a bunch of robots that can sustain themselves. So there's pretty much no operating cost because they can get their own energy and then do more. Then what incentive do I have? Because you mentioned, John, not selling. You mentioned that you could not charge people for stuff. What would be the purpose of my doing anything if I'm not charging people for it?
Well, that's the thing. You wouldn't do anything. There'd just be a bunch of robots. Like the way I envision it is there's a bunch of robots that nobody owns that are just making this stuff. Like and like people can just go and get stuff.
Okay. That's a bit of a stretch, but I can see it. And
well,
but then,
I'm going the route that we don't need money. This is like me saying, if it were to happen in such a way that nobody needed money, I think that's so. Like you wouldn't be incentivized to make stuff because nobody's selling stuff. It's just that people can go and get this stuff because it's just being made constantly.
Yeah. So you're saying it'd be just like unlimited resources. I mean, there's net positive robots that just going all over the place doing and getting things on their own, and they just pile it up faster than the people can use it. So it's just unlimited resources, right? That's basically what it comes down to then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
To work, it would have to be that either unlimited resources or the robots would have to have like a forced limitations.
Right. Yeah, but then what I was gonna say is if it is unlimited, then it's unlimited for the people because they can just go get it from wherever the robots are leaving it. but it's not unlimited from the Earth or even from space. It's not really unlimited. So that would be the main issue, is just eventually you're going to run out of whatever the robots are collecting for you. Maybe. I actually, I don't know. Here's another possibility. Let's say if it was just on Earth, we could say the robots were really efficient at recycling.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. And, like, collecting trash. So, like, people could just throw stuff on the ground, and, like, a robot might be able to say, hey, I can recycle this and turn it into...
Or another possibility is, I know that I just said even if you could get resources from space, it would run out eventually. But you have to imagine, like, if we came up with these robots in 50 or 100 years, I mean, yeah, theoretically, what we can get from space is limited, but it would take us probably a couple of millennia till we ran out.
Oh, yeah.
So for that time frame, it would be virtually unlimited, like I said. So either way, if they were really efficient at recycling, or if we did have access to space, or both, there could be a time frame where resources were virtually unlimited. Are you tired of Bitcoin dice and ready for something different? Try Lucky Bit, the original falling coin game, at luckybee.it. It's the most exciting Bitcoin game on the web. You can bet on 5 different payout lines and win up to 999 times your bet. You can even use their faucet to get some free Bitcoin. Dice is boring. Play different at Lucky Bit. Check it out at luckybee.it.
This is kind of unrelated to what you just said, but it's related to the main topic. So, like, naturally after this guy said this to me, and I was like, it kind of caught me off guard. Like, I'd really never even thought of it, or like heard anybody talk about it. Like, the first question that I thought of is like, well, what do you think the economy is going to be based on in the future? And I had an idea in mind, and he actually said exactly what I was thinking, which was that he thinks that it would be much more based on art, which that brings up another question of whether you think art can be automated. But what do you guys think about that?
That's interesting.
Yeah. Why couldn't art be automated?
Well, I mean, it depends on what you mean by art, because like, we have computers that can draw pictures automatically, but, like, do those pictures have meaning? Are they, like, valuable as art, or are they just images?
Shoot.
Well, yeah, technically, the same way that people would say stuff like memes or things like that. They're creative. They're artistic expression in some form, whatever kind of weird discipline it is. Not discipline, but I think it could be automated. Even yeah.
I mean, I agree, John, that we have computers that can generate images or whatever, and that, I mean, I've had before I remember when I was really little, I thought it was really cool when I found this wallpaper that was, or I didn't find it, I found a tutorial on how to create your own wallpaper that was just generated, right? You put a bunch of numbers into the thing and it generates a fancy, cloud, kind of puffy, abstract kind of shape with whatever colors you wanted and stuff. And that was pretty automated, right? I mean, I put in the numbers, but it generated the actual image for me. And I thought it was cool. But, and so, yeah, there is a certain place where the colors or the shapes can be generated, but you're right. I mean, is there meaning? Is there purpose? I mean,
would you guys consider something caricature cartoons art?
Caricature, yeah.
Okay, because I think like, sure. If I'm going to make the argument about art being automated, that was like the closest thing I could, or the best thing I could think of, because it seems like those generally follow like a standard pattern of something that you could. Someone I would think would be able to program at least something like it, and people still consider that art. And I don't know. Maybe people would be put off by like, oh, I don't want to get it done by a machine. That's weird. But I think eventually people would get used to it if it was something that happened.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I think even a lot of art that is created by humans is like formulaic. But then I guess it becomes about like what the intent is behind it. And I mean, I guess I would argue that like one of the like most important features of art and the thing that people are like most about it and what makes people willing to spend money on it is that it helps like humans understand themselves. So for an automated machine to be able to make art that helps humans understand themselves, it would have to understand humans or be capable of like introspection or something like that.
Yeah, but art comes normally like the person finds their own meaning or whatever they learn about themselves. That's not. People find so many different meanings in stuff that something that maybe the artist can say he meant very multiple things, but like just because the artist is like, I meant to do this, doesn't really take away from your experience of the art or something like that. Like, I guess. I
mean, I think maybe it should. That's a different discussion. But also, I mean, unless you're insane, I think there's still a limited possibility of things that it could mean.
Yeah, this is actually, maybe it is a different discussion, but I want to take this tangent because...
Well, I do have another thing to talk about that's more related to like economics kind of stuff. If this is too much of a different tangent.
I'm just maybe it is too different, but I'm tempted now because I remember this bugging me years ago. I remember that when this was in a literature class that I took with Tim, and I don't think you were in it, John, but I remember that I read a book and the author had like a foreword or an afterword or something, and he was like, "This is my story. Make of it what you will." And the teacher he couldn't get over that. He thinks that every single book has one specific meaning, and you can't change that. But this author himself was like, well, no, this is my story, and whatever it means to you, that's what it means to you. And there was an interesting conflict there. And I agreed with the author as opposed to the teacher. I think that the people who are viewing the art, I mean, yeah, I'm sure the author has some kind of message, some kind of intent. But if you interpret it differently, like, there's nothing you can do about that. If you get different meaning from it, then you get different meaning from it. I mean, that's just the way it is. It doesn't matter what the author meant. If nobody understands what the author meant and everybody gets something else out of it, or if everybody gets something different out of it, to me, that's okay. I mean, you learn what you learn when you experience art.
Is it okay when you're Charles Manson and it means that the Beatles are telling you to murder a bunch of people?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's right.
It wasn't a moral judgment. It was more just
what I'm saying is that I agree to a certain extent with that guy, like, but I mean, I might be projecting onto what I think he meant by that, but I don't think, like, even an author who says something like that, when they say that people get different meanings out of it, I feel like it has more to do with how what they were saying applies to their life, and not like it has no meaning at all except what people think it has. I think it's more just that it's a statement that applies to different people in different ways.
Yeah.
But, like I said, that could be me putting my own thoughts onto that. But, I mean, I feel like even an artist who would say that would never be like, oh, Charles Manson killing a bunch of people because of my songs is what I meant by that. Like, that's just what he got out of it.
Well, yeah, of course that's not what the author meant, and that's just what he got out of it.
Maybe it was. Who really knows?
And just
what I'm saying is that even an artist who says that has some kind of limitations on what they're willing to accept people getting out of it.
No. I mean, you can accept Charles Manson getting that out of your
you don't have to accept it. It's going to happen.
Without saying that it's right. Without saying that it's okay. You can say, well, this is what this meant to you, and that's...
But that's just a tautology. That's not saying anything.
Okay.
Well, sometimes part of my problem with saying, like, it has to, the point of it is very much to do with, what the artist did with it. Is then, like, what if the artist is wrong, or, like, I don't think, like, if I make a painting, it's gonna suck so bad, but someone can still, for whatever reason, someone can still look at a badly done, or I wasn't even meaning badly done at first. I was more meaning, like, if it's like a bad message, or what someone would consider a bad message, like hate or something like that, or if it's like some kind of like racist song that, yeah, like, or if it's like a KKK. I don't know why I'm going on through all white stuff. Then, like, is the artist wrong, or is that just, this doesn't even make sense as I'm articulating it, so that might be part of the problem. Maybe I just had to talk it out of myself.
Here's my theory. I don't even know if it relates to what you just said, Tim.
Probably not.
Well, actually, I think it does.
I don't know what mine just
does.
meant, so.
But yeah, you're right, John. What I was saying was a tautology, like just saying that this is what you got out of this, so this is what you got out of this, whatever. Yeah, that's a tautology. But so let's clarify that then. Just what does it mean for an interpretation to be acceptable? And I don't think that it means it's morally correct. So just because saying that, either. Yeah, just because I'm saying that, it's acceptable for different people to interpret art differently than the author intended it, that doesn't mean that I think their interpretations are morally right. I think if I had to clarify, all I would say is those different interpretations are worth considering. Even if you know for sure that it's not what the author meant, it's worth talking about those interpretations and considering what they mean and how accurately they apply to the human experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and the thing is, I think that things do have multiple possible meanings that maybe the author didn't even intend, just because so much of what goes into like a story or something is based off of like their experiences in life. They might be writing things into there subconsciously or just because they assume it. So I'm not saying that there's just like one specific meaning, but what I'm saying is there's a limited number of reasonable interpretations of something.
Yeah.
And I think you have to take into account like the personality of the artist as much as you know about that.
Right.
And things like that. I think for different authors, there's maybe wider ranges of things. And for different works, like some things are just way more ambiguous. And sometimes they're intended to be. But I think even when things are ambiguous and like intentionally ambiguous, there's still like certain threads in it.
Right.
Well, I think the artists, whatever they're doing, they have to have some kind of a meaning, even like no matter how someone else would consider worthless. You have to have a meaning to make the thing.
Yeah, I mean, like
I just finished
watching
like
a show.
Some kind of purpose.
I just finished watching a show that's like very, very, very like abstract, and like there's a lot of ambiguous things and a lot of things that like it's weird. This is like the best way to describe it. I felt like after watching that show, I could pull out like major themes from it, but I didn't completely understand the plot, like as it actually happened. Like there's a lot of things that were very unexplained and very ambiguous and very abstract about it, but there were still things that like were very clearly intentional about it. Like there were, I don't know if I want to go, I'm not going to go into specifics because you haven't seen the show, so like it wouldn't make sense. But does that kind of thing that I'm talking about make sense?
Like you notice themes in it, or like a driving point to it, but you don't really get exactly what's going on most of the time. Maybe because you're I don't understand the plot, or you're not entirely clear on it.
Yeah, well, it's like 80% of the plot maybe is like it's stated like right out, and then like a lot of it is assumed, like things that happen off screen or that aren't fully explained. I'm trying to think of an example that like both of you guys would know to maybe say what I'm talking about.
Well, one possibility that came to mind to me a few minutes ago, and I think it works pretty well for this, is what happens when an author creates a piece of art and then he dies and a millennia or 2 or 3 pass by, right? I mean, what's that book we read, the first one that we like ever know about in history?
The Epic of Gilgamesh?
Yeah, that one. So what do you do when the author's anything that could have told you about the author's purpose is pretty much gone, and anything about the culture is close to gone? I mean, normally you can use the culture to interpret the book, but in the case of the Epic of Gilgamesh, it's almost the opposite. The only way you can know anything about the culture is by seeing what the book was like, right? And
well, that's not entirely true, but...
Well, I know. You can get information from other places, and a lot of people have guesses, but still, I mean, a lot of the background is gone. And does that mean that the work is meaningless, or is it still worth deriving meaning from? I don't know.
Well, I mean, the entire time, he's trying to find eternal life. So I guess what I'm saying by this range of possible meanings is like he can't be looking for eternal life the entire book, and then you think it has something to do with like that has nothing to do with eternal life.
So I must kill the YMB podcast.
So like in the example of like what you were saying, where the guy says at the end of the book, like, "This is my story, make of it what you will." If that was tacked onto the end of Epic of Gilgamesh, I think what his intent would be is that people reading it would come to some conclusions about eternal life, and it may not be the same conclusions that he had about eternal life, but it's still like about the same
it should
subject.
Be. Yeah, and I can agree with that. You can't just make up shit and say that. Yeah, what's his name? And the Pittsburgh artist Andy Warhol was telling you to jump off the Eiffel Tower. I agree. You can't just make up shit.
To bring this back to like the automation thing. So like let's just go with the Epic of Gilgamesh. We'll like agree that it has something to do with eternal life, but we don't know exactly what. Well, the reason that's like an important piece of literature is that humans have thought about eternal life a lot for a long time. A robot would have to know that humans care about eternal life to come up with that idea.
I agree, but here's something that was troubling me like half an hour ago when we first started on the art as currency in the future. How do we stop? Well, actually, I guess this is something we've covered a lot, so maybe it is possible. But how do we stop art from being... I mean, even if the meaning can't be automated, the actual audio or the image or the video, all of that can be replicated instantly already. We don't need to wait for the future for that. So how do we make it valuable if it can be instantly duplicated? I mean, does that... Do we just turn back to these solutions that you've talked about on your show, John, with like a scribe or whatever Imogen Heap is coming up with and stuff?
Okay, so this is actually really interesting. This will work as a transition to the other points that I mentioned that I had that were more economic. So like maybe when we say that in a future where everything is automated, the way that art's valuable isn't like digital art, it's actual like analog art, like people playing shows or like physical paintings.
Yeah.
And the transition to the other stuff that I want to talk about is that like so far we haven't really talked about what people actually are interested in buying and like what things people like. How do I want to phrase this? I think that people now, especially recently, as we get more technologically advanced, are obsessed with like things that are somewhat like old-fashioned. I don't really like that word, but but it's like the only word that I can think of. Like
Analog?
people are obsessed with organic food that's like hand farmed. People will pay twice as much for a guitar that's hand built
Right.
when it is arguably no different from one that's built by a machine. People want things that are like tangible and made by people. I don't know. So I have another thing that I'll talk about later, but just on that like very general statement of it, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I completely agree. If everything was automated, I absolutely think people would pay for handmade stuff. Of course they would. They already do.
I think that would go away. Yeah, that doesn't. We do that now, but I think that's just because like now people have the money to what?
Yeah, if you're opulent and
yeah,
you're
but
living
not
in the
everybody's
future,
opulent.
well, yeah, but not everybody. I don't know where I was going with that.
with how it is now, how much more you pay to have it handmade. If everything is automated, I think that'd be out of probably. Just because I don't think that we'd ever have something where it would be endless. I don't think the people who had. I don't know how they keep it away from people really, but I think they would. Because the rich people always get the best stuff, and it kind of trickles down. But then they always have something better, and it just.
But the thing is, I don't think that people are just buying organic stuff to be better than other people. I think it's because they actually have in their head that like it's better, that they like it. There's something about it they like more.
Yeah, I think people will stop that. I think it's kind of like a fad right now. I just think people change their minds, especially as machines become. I think it's just being like we feel like it's more like this hand-picked pepper is just so much more, just so much better. Even if the farmer probably used the exact same pesticides as a bigger place would have maybe. Although I guess most small farms don't even try to do that anymore.
Yeah, I think you might be right that it could just be a fad. But on the other hand, I do think that people care about the story of things. Like there's that TED Talk that's the whole point of it is that people buy why you do something, they don't buy what you do.
Yeah.
He compared like the Zune and the iPod, and he was like, the Zune put out this commercial that was like, we have this much more storage than the iPod. We have this, our devices are this much faster. Our screen is this much bigger and has this many more pixels. And the iPod puts out an ad that's like somebody running and listening to their iPod and like smiling, and everybody buys the iPod because they don't care about like what it is, they care about why.
Well, right. And I think that supports my idea that people would pay extra for handmade things because I mean, if they have the money, especially if everything's automated, they have the money, so why the fuck not?
But where's
right?
all the money coming from?
Because everything else is free.
Everybody has everything they need, and so having money. Having money does not mean the ability to buy what you need. It means the ability to buy what you want. And people want handmade stuff. I think that's going to stick around.
Why?
Because it's
whenever
more interesting.
Automation, there's not going to be any small businesses left. There's no way enough.
You're going to be the one keeping them in business because for whatever reason, you have money. You don't need to use it to buy what you need, so you use it to buy what you want. And sure, I think people are still going to make things just for the hell of it, and you're still going to buy them just for the hell of it.
And that's where it goes into art. That's basically why I was arguing that people might still pay for art, because if we find a way to automate art, I think that even if somehow we are able to like design computers that can like generate meaning in the art and can actually have like purpose in it, even if we get there, I feel like people will still think that like a person creating art has more depth to it. Does that make sense? Like there are certain things that I think people believe are supposed to be done by humans.
Yeah.
Even if that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah. I don't know if I would say that that's the case. And I don't know if I would say that people even believe that. But I would
people
say
definitely
that
believe that now.
I mean, some people, not everyone.
I don't think
sure.
anyone alive today would be like, yeah, no, I want all my art done by computers. I think people would be completely against that now. Like, I mean, maybe a few people, but I think it just dies off. People change. It's cheaper.
I mean, how long have people been trash talking electronic music because they don't use real instruments? That's been happening since there's been electronic music. Like 50 years, people have been saying that.
Yeah, people trash all. I guess, but people trash.
And
all
I
kinds
don't
of
think
music,
that's
though.
going to go away. But I don't think that's going to go away.
But
I think they're going to always be.
EDM's in everything now, though. It's in like every single fucking. It's so annoying. Every single commercial has some stupid.
But those aren't. But those aren't the people who think like having it on commercials. That's not. No, it's not, because there's plenty of younger people that don't think that. Like, I feel like especially the people who are willing to spend money on music are the ones who think that it shouldn't be made like that. Like the people who are still buying vinyl records and stuff.
But that doesn't support an artist, really. Like, artists aren't surviving off of that. They're kind of like, well, no, maybe they're just surviving. But
we're talking about a future where surviving isn't part of the question. Like, everybody can have what they need. In that situation, I think people are still going to like want to buy this stuff because they think that it should be made by a person. And a person's not going to make it unless they get paid for it.
Yeah.
So I guess this is...
You just have like an art class, yeah.
We say way more often than I would like to how philosophy is depressing. And I think this brought us right back to this. The core here is basically just asking, what do people want? Because we're talking about a future where everyone has everything they need. But what do they want? What does the human really want? And that's a philosophical question that...
Thank you for asking the one question that everybody asks.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the whole point.
What do I want? What will satisfy me?
That's the whole point. That's why real quick. That's what I'm saying. That's why I hate talking about philosophy, because everyone asks the same questions over and over and over, and nobody has a good answer. But I think that's where we just ended up.
Like this, they're impossible.
Yeah,
that's the annoying thing.
I wish I had got to this before we got to a conclusion like that, but I have one more thing.
All right. Yeah, go for it.
It's on the same like train. Like this train just keeps going. So the last thing that I have, and most of these like I've come up with over the last week, because it was last Wednesday that I had this conversation, and I've been kind of thinking about it ever since. So it'll be a week in like several hours. But services. People complain all the time about like when they have to talk to a robot on the phone, or like even I mean, I think like even restaurants, like I feel like we'll be able to have robots that can serve people food, but I think that there's probably a lot of people who wouldn't like that, and they would rather have a real person there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You're right, but I'm the opposite. I would pay money not to talk to a person.
Well, that's the thing.
I
don't think
not having to talk to those motherfuckers, and I can just press a button, and then they just give me a hoagie.
What?
To be like, I get a 6 with no this and no that. And no
Tim,
this.
Nobody out there knows what a hoagie is.
That's true.
I forgot.
But
about that.
I'm also very much like that. Like,
if
I just need food, like I'm hungry and I need food just to like sustain myself. I don't like want to talk to somebody. I don't want somebody waiting on me. I just want food in my hand. If I could go to a vending machine and get it, that would be perfect.
Right.
But like a lot of people aren't that way.
Exactly.
And if I'm like going out with my fiance and we want to have like a really nice dinner and like have a nice time, I think like I don't want to go to a vending machine.
You're not going to take it to a Sheetz parking lot?
No.
Just like go in, hang around the screens.
Actually,
but the other thing is this.
I agree, John. It gets me really excited when I'm being served by someone who makes like less than a third as much as I do.
Daniel just likes to clone people.
Anyway,
exactly.
So like, I'll give you $10. I don't care.
This other guy I know had this idea that he said that at some point in his life he would like to start this as like a business where it would be therapy based, I guess is what it is. It's something that you would sign up for voluntarily, and basically you would just go to a farm and do manual labor all day, have like a really nice hearty meal at night, and then just sit around and talk with people, and then like go to bed at night, like go to bed early, wake up early, and work and like spend time in nature and like doing physical labor as like therapy.
Cooped up.
That's already a thing, really. I mean, people pay to do that.
Yeah,
any of our listeners, I do run a landscaping company. I am fully in for any of this. Anyone wants to put down mulch all day?
Well, no, see, this is the thing.
We'll get...
You would pay to do that. You would pay to do work.
Yeah, I'm volunteering my company.
I don't get what you want people to pay you to do your job. Is that what you're saying?
Well, to help, yeah. No,
Okay.
but I do.
Okay.
I seriously do understand your point about like it feels good to like go out and do something all day, then just come back and just.
This would be for people who are like depressed, and I guess this goes into the thing. If you think
exercise,
if you think people are depressed because everything is automated and we don't do anything anymore, a business like that might be like a huge deal, and this ties into the whole idea of people wanting things made by humans. Like, if you think that in the human heart, soul, whatever you want to call it, there exists some, like, connection to the past, I think, like, that's where, like, things would go. Like, that also would explain why people would be willing to pay for things that are handmade and stuff. So, like, I guess this all boils down to whether or not you believe that humans have some connection to how things have been done in the past, and
right.
that's what would drive people to still do things unautomated, even though they could be done automated, even though they don't have to be. Yeah,
and I think I've pretty much said this in the show just now, but yeah, I think I would say that people would pay for old-fashioned and traditional and manual or whatever. So, yeah, that's where I stand. But, yeah, this was fun. I honestly think this is one of my favorite episodes we've ever done, because I like robots, I like art, I like money, I like the future. I mean, and I hate philosophy. So that's
what's your advice?
As far as philosophy goes, I feel like this is like, well, it depends which way you go, but like I would tend to lean more towards the side that people will always have that in them, and for some reason that makes me happy, and maybe that actually like
makes me sick.
Maybe that could count as a piece of evidence that people will always have that. Like the fact that I'm happy that I believe that people will always have that might mean that it is a basic part of being human, because I'm human and I think it would be cool.
You're a weird human though. You get happy stuff
like this, because I don't think it would just be a thing where people just completely shut off and just like sit there and get fed.
I think we're going virtual reality. I think that's how people are going first. I don't think we're ever really going to get to the point that everything's fully automated. It's just going to be where it can pump it in and we just go virtual reality, because we love video games. So that's my advice, is just to prepare for that.
Well, that's the thing. If everything's automated, you could live in virtual reality, because you would just have robots feeding you, and like maybe you could even have robots exercise you somehow, so that like you would
just like move you around.
Your body wouldn't just like atrophy, and then your brain can just be in virtual reality the whole time.
I think people would just strip down to their brains eventually too. It's like, fuck it, I don't need it. Just plug me right in.
My advice of the week is to just enjoy art. I mean, my favorite part of this discussion was just saying, like, I think people can interpret art in a lot of different ways, and I think it's true. I mean, of course I think it's true, because that's what I was saying this whole episode. And so that's my advice, is to enjoy art. I mean, sure, the interpretations are limited. I'm with you there, John. I mean, you can't just make up shit. I mean, there's some abstract art that is just a joke, but still, I mean, try to enjoy it. Right there. Try to learn what it means and just enjoy it. You know, pay money for it, have a good time. I mean, that pay money for it comment might have sounded like a joke, but I'm serious, because that means that you're actually getting something out of it. You're actually enjoying it if you're willing to pay for it.
You might also be supporting the only thing that will
support the artist.
An economy in the future.
Exactly.
What are you talking about? You pay for it, and therefore it gives you meaning or something, Daniel. What was that?
Tim, money is the only thing that gives life meaning. So if
money is the only measure of happiness. That's our advice. Just remember that. Just get those coins.
All right, John. I think you're the last one to give advice, and then we'll wrap up. You got anything good for us?
Well, my advice is if you can't go work on a farm for a while, well, even if you can, I guess, in both situations, you should just, like, go out and get yourself some nice, like, sipping whiskey and sit on your front porch with an acoustic guitar and just watch, like, the sunset or something and play some music or do something like that. I don't know. Like, I don't know.
Pull a Walden.
Do something like that. Do something. Do something analog and
there
natural.
You go.
like between LSD and mushrooms, you're saying go with the shrooms?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, and then get back to us, guys. Let us know how it goes after you try that analog stuff. At you, me, and BTC. Send us a tweet. Leave a comment at youmeandbtc.com. If you want to give us some money, go to patreon.com/youmeandbtc. It's been tons of fun.
If you want to work for me, tweet me.
Actually, I know my siblings own a farm, and they would love your help. So if you need therapy, let me know. And come back next Thursday, guys. This was seriously one of my favorite episodes, so thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of it. No matter where you are, LRN.FM, Liberty.me, World Crypto Network. I don't know if we're on anywhere else, probably, maybe, but seriously, thanks for being here.
We're on everywhere, Daniel, because our art
worldwide.
is so well received.
International.
So well
2009.
2009.
All right, see you guys. Thanks a lot. Peace.